for April 12th. I want to welcome all of our guests and all of our members, and some business. Sunglasses, if anybody's missing sunglasses, they're left on the table. I'll just leave them right here.
They're mine.
Yours? Oh, I can throw them.
Close enough.
I thought it was a better catch than that, but I guess not. So, sorry about that. Okay, so let's start, as we always do, with our inspirational invocational pledge with our past president, past district governor Dan Gensler. Everyone would please rise.
Okay, let's all bow our heads. Father, as we join together today as Rotarians and friends, we acknowledge that wherever we go, we are always in your presence. We pray that our actions may reflect this awareness. For whatever our future will bring, we must face disappointment. If we must face disappointment, help us learn patience. If we must face sorrow, help us to learn sympathy. If we must face pain, help us to learn strength. If we must face danger, help us to learn courage. If we must face failure, help us to learn endurance. If we achieve success, help us to learn gratitude. If we attain prosperity, help us to learn generosity. If we win praise, help us to learn humility. And if we are blessed with joy, help us to learn sharing. And if we're blessed with health, help us to learn caring. As we stand before you today, help us to learn the value of service above self, and may your radiant spirit guide us and our loved ones all our days. Amen. Amen. Join me in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you may be seated, and thank you, Dan. So, past President Dan Orr wants to come on up for any visiting Rotarians and guests. Here he comes.
Couldn't be any farther away. Hi, everybody. Unless you were visiting Rotarian that snuck by me, we'd like to have guests of Rotarians, and I get to go first. My special guest, Dave Campbell. Any other guests of Rotarians? Okay. Bob Taylor.
Yes, I have stolen, for 1 week, I've stolen Pat Stark's special guest. This is J.F. Coupeau, and he's checking us out for the second time.
Well, Mr. over there looks like Terry.
President Luann, fellow Rotarians and guests, I'd like to introduce my very good and longtime friend, Beth Bowman.
Okay. Oh. Yeah. Oh.
President Luann and fellow Rotarians and guests, we have Sean Robbins with us today, who was told by his employer he needed to come in and meet some really nice people.
Madam President and fellow Rotarians, I'd like to introduce my beautiful daughter Lucy from London. She's come here with her family to spend 10 days with us. Thank you.
President Luann, fellow Rotarians, I have my special guest, Linda, my wife.
And then I have one special guest, Andrew Gay, that's over here. So Andrew.
Hey, Andrew. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce my son, Will Barge. He's a local homegrown product.
it. So what we always do next is we have our Red Badgers stand up. So if we can have Jerry Brown, where's Jerry? Stand up, he's right over there. Joe Malloy, who always does our tech, right here. I think Rena Clancy is here, there's Rena right here. I think Georgia Farrell's here, it's over there. Mike Jensen is here, Mike right here, he's doing in a little bit his last requirement, so he'll be done. Brenda Jones right here, she's our newest member. John Meisner right here. And I think that is it. One thing that I wanted to address is that when past President Suzanne Pop inducts new members, they are a full member at that time. And the only thing is when we talk about a Red Badger, that is the program in which the new members get to learn about Rotary and about our club and our district and our members. So I just wanted to clear that up. So if we can have the first slide. Every month, Rotary specializes in area of focus. And this month in April is Maternal and Child Health Month. And one of the things that Rotary says about this is that Rotary members are working diligently towards this goal through projects that provide education, immunization, birth kits, mobile health clinics, and much, much more. Women are taught how to prevent mother-to-infant HIV transmissions, how to breastfeed, and how to protect themselves and their children from disease. And Rotary does that very well. So next, if we can have the announcement slide. Okay, so tomorrow is the social. It's at Kilma Cullen's home at 728 Margarita from 5:30 to 7:30. Don't forget to bring an adult beverage to share, an appetizer, and as always, your own reusable glass. So I can say that, especially for new members, please come. We usually have between 50 and 60 people that come. It's great fellowship and it's a great way to meet each other. Okay, so next the board meeting is next Tuesday, April 18th. And then Rotarians at Work Day is Saturday, April 29th. And that, Renair is going to come up in a little bit and he's going to talk about that. So this last Monday, a few of us met at Spreckles Park to unload for the flower show one of their storage sheds. So I thank everybody that did that. And they're going to ask for volunteers this coming Monday to do the same thing. And it was not very laborious. It was just taking some things from the trailer up to the grandstand. So look for that. Then important dates. So on May 31st, and this is way in advance, but our weekly Wednesday meeting will be special. It will be at the iBar on base. And so, yeah, so it'll be a lot of fun. It will be $36 because for the meal, and then we also have to pay for the venue. And I have to get this right. The bar will be open, not an open bar, as some of you heard me say a few weeks ago. So the bar will be open. Yes, and the thing is, it's going to be really popular. So we'll be able to get everyone on base, and you'll see that in the future. But we ask, you can start registering now, but you can only bring one member and one guest. To this, because I know it's going to be popular. A lot of people are going to want to do that. The CEO of the base, Captain McKesson, will speak. And if you want to register now, the best way to do it and not wait for Jamie's announcement is you can go on to coronadoRotary.org, our webpage on the homepage, and you'll see on the left-hand side is calendar. Look for the date. You can hover over that announcement, and that will pull up the registration for you, and you can go ahead and register. So I highly recommend, this isn't until May 31st, but the cutoff for that will be May 15th, because we need a couple weeks to get everybody organized and get them on base if they don't have a way to get on base. So that's one thing. Then the next is we're resurrecting lawn bowling against the Optimist, and that's going to be June 10th. I think it was before COVID, they did that, and the Optimist won by 1 point. So it will be on June 10th. It's a Saturday at 12:30. If you want to play, they're trying to get a team together. Just let Natalie Bailey know if you want to play, and then I guess they'll be practicing on that. And then, as we all know, June 24th on Saturday is Low Tide Ride and Stride, and John Duncan will talk about that in a few minutes. Okay, so Rotarians Out and About, there were a couple cleanups. April 1st, I want to thank Helen Krupka for heading that, and a few Optimists came, and some members were there. And then in the last beach cleanup, we had a lot of Interact join us, so that was great. So next week, the trip, some of you know that James Simmerall and I accompanied Carol Summer to headquarters in Evanston, Illinois, for her celebration for joining the Arch Clump Society. So the three of us are going. We took some great pictures of the celebration of headquarters, so we're going to show those next week. And then one of the things for the district that they asked for this month, so we have 2 more weeks left, that they have, it's called Your Safe Place, and it is through the city of San Diego. And it is, they need your help, and it is collecting personal hygiene supplies for hundreds of individuals that service who experience domestic violence, family violence, elder abuse, sexual assault, or sexual trafficking. And there is a whole list of items, and Jamie's going to send that out. It'll either be as a P-mail or it will be in the Cortator. If you decide that you would like to get, that's mainly like hairspray, shampoo, the type of items that they would need. She's going to put my address on that, and you can just drop it off on my porch. And that's to the end of this month, and then they'll come and collect it. So that's one thing we can do, and we're still collecting for the pantry. The 3 items, they need canned vegetables, they need pasta, and they need pasta sauce. So that's something there. So next, I'd like to ask Rainier Trinidad to come on up and talk to us about Rotarians at Work Day.
President Lewin, fellow Rotarians and guests, we have Rotarians at Work coming up on Saturday. That's the last Saturday this month, on April 29th. We have 2 locations this year. Unfortunately, San Pasquale Academy cannot go participate this year, but we have the Coronado Schools and we have YMCA Camp Surf. So on your tables, you saw me pass out these sign-up sheets. Everybody's name is on this, and all we need to do is just look up your name, write an X next to the location that you can go to, or if you cannot go, also mark that as well so we can have you accounted for. So also, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. We'll also be sending out an email to the others who haven't received this notice, so we can all have a good year this year. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rainier. So let's make sure that we all sign up, and he'll be coming the next few weeks for people to sign up. Okay, so next we have Mike Jensen, if he would like to come up. He's going to give his Rotary Minute. It's his last requirement as a red badge, so we're all excited about that for you.
Okay, hello everybody. I learned something new this week about Rotary that I didn't know, and maybe it's new for all of you as well, but through a friend of mine who's a Rotary member and his wife who's involved with the Downtown Club, told me about this thing called the Model United Nations Conference that just took place, I think, Saturday before, or weekend before last. And it's where our district, which is the only one in the United States that actually does this event, gathers a bunch of local high school students from a variety of different high schools, and they gather and they do a mock UN General Assembly where different kids represent different countries. They get up and debate real life issues, and it's a great way for them to learn about, you know, conflict resolution, you know, international relations, presenting in front of a crowd, and that sort of thing. So anyways, it was news to me, and I thought I would just share that as something that our district is involved in. It's somewhat unique, and I also heard from Luann that the kids that came from Coronado High School actually performed very well and represented us well, even though we weren't involved. Thank you.
So congratulations to Mike on finishing all his red badge requirement, and Ivan, where are you? Ivan's his sponsor, so congratulations to you too.
You did great.
All right. So next, past President Steve Durmeyer, if we can get a mic to him. When we had our 97th anniversary, Steve gave a little history on our club from way back in 1926. So he's going to continue by popular demand, and he's got some slides. And as he knows, he's got X amount of minutes for me to cut him off. So
good afternoon, Rotarians. It's very nice to see all of you and your guests and friends. Yeah, let's get going here. You're going to see some images from our history. Some of you have seen some of these images before. Some of you have not seen any of them before. So let's look at that very first one, Joe. This is in 1935, upstairs at the Hotel Del. These are Rotarians, meaning wives of Rotarians, spouses. And they're wearing their hats to represent the occupation or classification of their husband. Note the lady on the far left, that's Mrs. Anderson, Anderson's Bakery. That's what they did. They became well known in Coronado for their bakery. The lady on the front row next to the end, sitting down there, has a hat that's full of Federal Reserve notes. And it looks like real money. And we have to believe that her husband was probably a bank or maybe one of the commercial loan companies in Coronado, which we had at that time. Next, this is in 1951-52. This is Bud Anderson, part of that bakery family, and he is Mickey Burke's father, if any of you know Mickey. Next. Oh, this is in high school. These guys are student Rotarians. This is in 1960. The guy on the left, do you know who that is? Ron Vernetti, our Rotarian Ron. And behind Ron is John Probasco, who is also associated with a Rotary family. Next one, Joe. Oh, do you know who these people are? This one is in 1954-55, and that's Dr. Robert Plum and his wife, Elsie Jane. So that is Bob and Paul's father and mother. Okay, next one. These are Rotarians that are celebrating 25 years of our club, and those guys are founders. They began, among others, they began the club in 1926. Next. This is the gentleman at the microphone. Look at that crazy old mic. It's Arch Archibald, and this is a 3738. Again, all these are virtually upstairs. And this is Clarence, and that's Clarence and Lillian Anderson back in the corner. Clarence is the parent of David Anderson and his mother there as well. And Claire became president of our club later on. Next. Oh, these are a couple of old warriors. King Jack Phelan on the left and Bob Warchasek on the right there, and he's receiving the gavel. That was a tradition. We passed the big gavel to the next president. This was in 1989. Next. This is again Arch Archibald. He also became district governor, and you recognize the Commodore complex on Orange behind him. So I think his real estate company had something to do with developing the Commodore. And this photo was June '72. Next. Now again, we're in the Hotel Del, and I want to show you. This one's really cool. This is Student Rotarian Day. These are guys, it's June 1960, and the only reason I know that is I'm the same age as some of these guys. Over on the right corner at the dais is, again, who is that? Ron Vernetti. And look at the left corner of the dais. Who do you think that is? That's Paul Plum. And he's chewing out his buddy, his high school classmate, about some point of order in the meeting. As Paul would do. Okay, let's go again. Next slide. Now, not the best slide, but the annual Rotary banquet in the Crown Room upstairs, Cornet Room, it says. And Clarence Anderson and Lillian are hardly visible, but they were presiding, and they're at the far end of the dais table beneath the American flag. Next, this is how you went back and forth to San Diego. They're all dressed to the nines. That's our club. And they must have gone over to some big Rotary deal at the U.S. Grant Hotel. But don't take this thing to see. Please don't. Next, we could be, back then, pretty formal at times. And this was probably back in the 30s. And it was probably a reception line for district governor and maybe even RI president. That's more like it. Next. This is the gold room at the Hotel Del, 1937. On the front row, that's the whole membership. On the front row are the founders that founded the club back in the 25, 26. And the gold room doesn't exist anymore, but I don't know where this is. I'm sure it's in the structure somewhere. Next, July 4th parade, 1955. That's our float. And we're celebrating 50 years of Rotary, and service to youth was our theme then. You see the Rotary Christmas tree at Coronado Rotary Plaza on the right-hand side, and then you see the mobile gas tank back there. Well, that, of course, is on that corner, and that's a bar and a grocery deli. Next. Oh, well, this was pancake breakfast. This was 1968. Carl Turnipseed is on the far left. On the right is, let's see, Marco Colombo. He was a restaurateur and had a restaurant where the Tent City is now. And Dick Parker in the rear, who was a former president of our club and also a mayor of Coronado. I can't remember the guy with the glasses there. Okay, next. This is Hotel Del, 1938, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the hotel. And the Rotarians decided that they wanted to dress in period dress of 1988. So there they are. Next, 1880. Yeah, sorry. This is how, generally speaking, the guys went back and forth to the mainland. And this is for an intercity meeting that was at the Dell in 1952. And these guys are from Point Loma and Mission Bay. Next. Do you recognize that man, Lou Barnum on the left? And on the right is Dr. Bob Plum. This was in May 1978, and I think it's at the golf course clubhouse there, I think. Okay, next. Oh, well, this is a pretty special photo. This was taken at Coronado Country Club in 1929, where we were meeting. No, there were no houses over there then. We were meeting at the country club. It was officially the club picture. The food was so good there that the guys exclaimed, how can you have great chefs? This is lovely. And they said, well, we're not from here. We're from the Hotel Del. So the Del was catering the food there at that country club. And thereafter, our guys decided they wanted to come to the Hotel Del. And they did in 1930, and all those decades after that, we were meeting here. Next. Oh, this is our official founder's photo. It's framed in Upton Rotary office at Pagoda Bank. And this is an interesting one, too, because it was taken at the Yacht Club. And I wondered, what was the yacht club? Well, the yacht club was San Diego Yacht Club, and they had their yacht club on Glorieta Bay. And on the second row in a light jacket, sitting in kind of the middle there, is the first club president. Next. Oh, this is a beach scene. What would we be doing then, you know? State Pride, Silver Strand State Beach, 1951. I recognize from my research some of the furnaces, but the guy in the upper right-hand corner in kind of the checkered lumberjack shirt and he's stroking his chin, that's, who was that, see? What, Darnell, Jim Darnell. So some of you may know the Darnell family. Next, this gentleman with Bud Anderson, 51-52, you've already seen him, is Tom Blair, who was one of our founders, and he was a favorite of all the Rotarians. And right above Bud Anderson down there on the sand is a man in a white jacket and a dark shirt, and he's singing away, and that is Dr. Jim Bernetti, who was our Rotarian of the century, and was Ron Bernetti's father. Next. Oh boy. Okay, we're at our own pancake breakfast. And this is in 2004. You know Cyverson on the right, Bob, and on Mark Andrews on the left. And they're still in the club. They weren't doing anything then. And I don't know what they do these days. Okay, next. Angelica, come on. Come on, you recognize, some of you are here. Yeah, sure. That's Jane Zimmerl on the right. That's Meredith in the middle. And who's on the left? It's Philippe the Great, magician, it says. And that's Phil Monroe. Yeah, so there you are. That was pancake breakfast at 2004. And we always had pancake breakfast at the Village Hall, Village Elementary School multi-purpose room. And it was very fun. I loved it a lot. I don't know why we don't do it now. Okay, next. So these guys are working there, and Ray Delagrave in the middle. Dave Knott still with us and active, and Jim Harris is no longer with us. Next. Oh, here's a lovable man. He's Bob Kranz. Bob Kranz at this time probably was the director of the Homeowners Association at the Cays, but what Bob did to make his name was he invented the low tide ride. And then we, and Bob, later on decided we'd make it the low tide ride and stride. And so the low tide ride and stride, founder was Bob Kranz, great guy. Next. Oh, well, I mean, good grief. Let's see. On the left, Bob, we're serving a pancake breakfast. Takes 3 people to pour juice. And Bob Sugared on the left. Who's in the middle, please? Ron Bobian, longest serving Rotarian in our club. And on the right, Mary Ann Berta. Good on you all. And we love pancake breakfast. It was fun for us, and it was fun for people who came to experience plug-in with Rotary. Next. We're after flags on the avenue. And who is that lady on the left? Oh, and she's here today. Ginger, that's Guy Zeller next. That's Dan Hutchison next. Steve Haley next. I think that's Amy on the end. I'm not positive. And Jim Harris on the right, then Ken McLeod, etc. We always did that after we put the flags up. Next. Oh, well, this is this room. Look at those sconces. There they are. Let's see now what we were doing here. Oh, yeah. November 2020, November 2000, it was Doug Weiss Recognition Day. And Doug, you still deserve recognition, buddy. Yeah, you do a great job. And by the way, that's President Bob Watson there. He's a legend in our club and our club history, and we have
and then Steve, we're getting close.
Okay.
I saw that timer on the last one, and I think
let me
maybe I
finish
should
with
get
one
there.
more, okay?
Okay.
And I'll know where I am. That's number
All right.
30. Okay, one more. Thank you, Joe. Look at these ladies. Hey, who are they? They're the Pancake girls, Suzanne and Ginger. So we were setting up for a Sunday pancake breakfast. That's all for this episode. Let me know when we can do another episode.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Okay, next I'm asking F. John Duncan, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about low tide ride and stride, and then we'll introduce our speaker.
Thank you, President Luann, and good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests. Now that we have that great golf tournament behind us, it's time to focus on the low tide ride and stride. As was said, it's on June 24th, Saturday, but the announcement I have today is a few things. First is this coming Monday at 5:30 at the Yacht Club. We're having our first organizational meeting for the Low Tide Ride and Stride. So hopefully everybody can come. We'll get that email out later this week. But again, former President Robin arranged for us to have the Coronado Yacht Club for our first meeting. And the bar will be open, and we will have pizza there for everybody. And I wanted to say, you know, if you're a new member or a Red Badger, it's an incredible event, a signature event for our club, and it's a really great way to get involved. So please come. I remember meeting Ronnie there last year. And there was so much to do with the Low Tide Ride and Stride. None of it is extremely burdensome to one person, but we really want to have teams that can learn the event, against especially new people, so we can have continuity for the future. But whether it's helping with registration at the event, helping with the bike wash of the bicyclists as they come off the course, or a myriad of events, stations you can help us with. So it's an incredible cause for people who aren't familiar with it and are new to our club. No one can doubt the incredible cause, which is supporting wounded warriors and first responders. So please come on Monday if you can. If you can't, we'll have other contact information for you for the future meetings and how you can get involved. Also, James Simmerall is handling our sponsors this year, and we are going to be looking for sponsors over the next month or so. So if you have no small businesses or other people who might be willing to sponsor, or individuals, we need to get that done over the next month, because as most of you know, their names go on our shirts and on other materials for the race. All right, so again, I hope we see everybody on Monday. Now to the more main event, introducing our speaker today, which is our Port Commissioner, Frank Urtasun. He was sworn into the Board of Port Commissioners on January 2nd of 2022 after appointment by Coronado City Council. He's a lifelong San Diegan with more than 38 years of public policy and regulatory experience. Commissioner Urtasun is the president of Regional Strategies Group. He has led several key external affairs initiatives in San Diego and throughout California for Sempra Energy. He's served on numerous government and community boards, including 10 years previously as a port commissioner for the city of Imperial Beach. He's also, at that time, when he was there for 10 years at the port, he was chairman twice of the Port of San Diego, and he led their development efforts in South America and throughout the United States. He's also served on the boards of Downtown San Diego Partnership, the San Diego Housing Commission, and was named one of 10 lifetime San Diegans by the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. For me, my experience with Frank is watching him at the Port Commission hearing in regard to the cottages at the Cays, and he did an excellent job at that hearing. I've also attended, of course, on council, his presentation to council about his year-plus tenure on the port as representative of the city of Coronado, and also had a chance to meet with him one-on-one. And I can say I feel we're very fortunate to have him as our port commissioner. He's very experienced, very intelligent, and very, very engaged, which is so important to us. And I think after his presentation today, you'll hopefully feel the same way. Frank, welcome.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon, Rotarians. I don't know how intelligent I am. You know, honestly, I thought when I left the port in 2002, my wife and I had just built a new house here on San Luis Rey. I was done with public service. And 20 years later, the call came in, and I thought people were joking about me coming back. But I did. I came back. I've been now your port commissioner for about 16 months. It's been a great experience for me. People say, what's it like? And I tell them, it really is a deja vu. What do you mean by that? Well, when I come back, I see projects that existed 20 years ago when I left. True story. I'll talk about the Coronado Yacht Club project. I'll talk about the Cays development that's proposed down there. These projects were around 20 years ago. And so coming back, it's been a real deja vu moment. It's great to be here with you all. I mean, old friends, neighbors that are around. Former Councilman Al Albrum, great to see you again, Al. Obviously, Councilmember Mike Donovan's here. Councilmember John Duncan, former Councilman Bill Sankey, and a lot of you. You know, after 21 years of living here in the city, I've gotten to know the folks around here a little bit more, and it's been fun. My wife and I talk oftentimes about what's it like living here in Coronado. Now, I'm originally from Imperial Beach. I'm not embarrassed to tell you that. That's where we grew up. I met my high school sweetheart there. We've been married over 40 years. And we moved here 21 years ago. And she was just telling me the other day, you know, how lucky she feels of us living here in town. And I agree. We're blessed to be able to live here. And I feel very fortunate now that I'm able to give back to the city. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about the different projects. I'm going to talk about the port. I don't know how much you all know about the Port of San Diego. Beth, by the way, good to see you again. I don't know how much you know about the Port of San Diego, but I'm going to talk a little bit and give you a little bit of a perspective on what this agency is all about. 1962, Senator Jim Mills and others had this idea of trying to put together the titlelands under one regional authority. And they asked the voters of the 5 cities, they put this structure together and they said, are you willing to tax yourself for the formation of this special purpose district with the hope that one day we're going to have nice boat ramps, nice parks, nice restaurants, nice facilities. We voted on it. There was one city that voted no. Anybody want to take a guess? It was Coronado. But the vote was cumulative overall, and so the formation of the district happened. And they turned over the titlelands over to the this organization. It did tax, and has the taxing authority today, but taxed for about 7 or 8 years. By that time, this special purpose district had put together sufficient business machine to be able to run on its own and cut the taxing off. We're a bit of we're like a private company, but we're government. We're put together by the state. We're fiduciaries for the state. But we're able to charge, and the way that we charge is depending upon whether it's a restaurant, a marina, a hotel, we charge a percentage. And so there's no question, I mean, you put a RFP out to build a hotel or build a restaurant, you get a lot of takers. I remember real well when I was in my previous tour of duty here, learning that the Port of San Diego's real estate company was one of the top 3 in the country. Now, when we think of ports, we think of LA, Long Beach, big maritime ports. We don't think of San Diego, but yet we do have a maritime business here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. First of all, if we could go to the next slide here, just to give you an idea, I thought it was important to put this out. This is the budget at a glance here. About a $200 million a year operation. By the way, when I served previously, the airport was part of it. Al remembers this. It was split apart in 2001. You split the airport away from the port. It went from being about a $350 million operation to about a $200 million operation. The port has bounced back well from that, having to create, as you can imagine, 2 HR departments, 2 legal departments, 2 accounting departments. When you split the babies, those 2, you had to create a lot of new departments. And yet the Port of San Diego has done a great job of being able to get going and do well. However, as you can see from that slide right there, the pandemic hit us hard. No surprise, right? 80% of the revenues that come to the Port of San Diego come from the real estate company. What happened during the pandemic? Nobody was coming to hotels, nobody was going to restaurants. We all know. The port took a big drop, and you see that reflected in those years during the pandemic. It was a tough go, but I'm happy to tell you, and honestly, I feel pretty lucky because I came in after it was all over, right? As John indicated, I took the oath in January of 22. By that time, we were on the road to recovery. And so the port's doing well from that perspective. But there's another significant part that was a big difference from what I saw when I was here previously. At the time, in the 90s, when I was representing the city of Imperial Beach, about 4% of the revenue from the port district came from the maritime side. 4%. As I come back now, it's about 20–25%. And folks, that was a savior during the pandemic, because while the hotel business, the restaurant business, the cruise business went down significantly, almost to nothing, the cargo business continued to do well. And that was a savior to the port. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've got going there. If we could go to the next slide. I'm going to start off on the maritime side. And while it's overshadowed from our real estate company, I think it's important to point out we do have a maritime. We have a cargo business. We have two maritime terminals. One right across the way that you see every day, and one down in National City. We are overshadowed by LA and Long Beach that have those big container businesses. We have more of a what's called a RORO, roll-on, roll-off cargoes. Big import of banana business, of all things. Something I'm quite proud of that I had my hand in when I was involved previously, of being able to secure bringing Dole fresh fruit. So they're a big time part of our business. We also have a big business when it comes to automobiles, of all things. In National City, you go down to National City, you'll see an operation, vehicles all over the place. It's part of the operations that we have down there. But there's something real important to point out about the Port of San Diego that differentiates us from other ports on the maritime side. And that is that environmentally, this port is very progressive when it comes to our operations. And that's worth noting. It is no surprise, we're in California, a lot of emphasis on environmental involvement. And so we're leading the charge. We're going to be the first port in the nation to be bringing in, those are electric lift cranes that you see right there. We get them this year. The cool part about it, that's going to replace, yeah, that's a good thing. It's going to replace diesel ran cranes. But the cool part is technology is changing so much that these cranes have a 400 metric ton lift capacity, unlike the diesel components. So not only are we going to get an operation that's much cleaner, but we're also going to get greater capacity. And that's important, folks, because we bring in some heavy cargoes into the Port of San Diego, and that's going to be something that's going to work out really well. By the way, the little tugs that we see here, we're going to be the first port in the country that's going to be bringing in an all-electric tug. This is a partnership with Crowley, who manufactures tugs. We're going to be the first one. We got the E-Wolf that's in production right now. I believe it's in Alabama, in Tuscaloosa, I believe it is. And it's thanks to some federal grants, we are going to be the first port in the nation that's going to be bringing in that tug operation in here to the Port of San Diego. So, you know, those things are noteworthy. They're good things, I think, for us, and something we're quite proud of. So, as we try to grow the maritime business, we're doing it in a environmentally responsible way. Now, you may have read in the paper recently where we had a situation with a cement company that wanted to come in, and the port was trying to make them to do, be able to do the trucking, to all be zero emission trucks, and we just couldn't come to terms with them. Unfortunately, we lost Mitsubishi Cement, but there'll be others that will come in. So we're growing the business responsibly. We're growing it in a way that it's going to be good for all of us in the surrounding areas, but we're doing it in a way that we think is going to be good for the environment as well. Let me shift real quickly over to the cruise business. The cruise business is booming for us. We're expecting 140 cruise ship calls this year. 140. You don't think about it. You don't think about San Diego, but it makes sense, right? Everybody wants to cruise over to San Diego. Obviously, the big cruise business is in Florida and in the South. But here in San Diego, we're doing quite well. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Fort Lauderdale and I met with Disney Cruise Lines, and they have committed to 51 calls themselves this year. Big deal. So we're investing in our cruise terminal, which, folks, is not the best, but we're making do with what we have. An old warehouse that's been converted into a cruise ship terminal, but it's something that I think is going to work out really well for us. Let's go on to the next one. Let me if I can, shift over to the real estate side, because these things are real important. This is exciting stuff that's going on. I'm going to start here in Chula Vista. I know that there's a lot of interest in what's going on here in Coronado, and I'm going to talk about that as well. But in Chula Vista, if you look across the bay, you'll see those big cranes that are up in the air. You see them right there in the picture. A big deal for the South Bay, a big deal for Chula Vista. This is a project that's been in the planning for many, many years. Actually, when I was here previously. This is going to be a 1,600-room hotel convention center in construction. We're anticipating it's slated to open in 2025. Big deal. This is going to be a big thing. It's really going to change the face of the South Bay. Along with it, in fact, it was an action that we took just yesterday. The approval of the contract to construct the Sweetwater Park, and that's the park design, the concept that you see right there. It'll be just to the north, right next to it. We're required to open that up before the actual construction or the convention center opens up there, and that contract's been let, and that will be underway. It'll be showcase the bay's unique natural wildlife and natural habitat around it. So pretty exciting stuff that's going on there in Chula Vista. Next slide. Now, what's this? This could be what we're looking at, folks, across the bay at Seaport Village. Now, honestly, I got to tell you, I've been a critic of this in discussions. This is an intense development by a private developer that has approached the port about taking Seaport Village and completely redeveloping it. But it's an intense development, and I'm asking, well, is this real? 5 hotels, like 160,000 square feet of blue economy office space, music hall. We'll see if it's going to be real. We'll see if this is going to be something that's going to be a reality for us. It's going to take. The developer's already come out and said he needs $550 million of government subsidy. He doesn't call it a subsidy, but that's really what it is, to build all the underground parking and the movement of the utilities and all that stuff there. The port's not going to do that, but maybe we'll see if the city of San Diego and the county of San Diego come together and are able to allocate the tax increment from this project for this development. We'll see. That will be a determining factor. Keep your eye on it. There's stories from time to time in the newspaper about this, on whether that's going to happen or not. It's going to take the city and the county of San Diego to allocate their tax increment dollars for the city, for the lead agency to be able to issue the debt, issue bonds, to be able to afford that kind of infrastructure. So, big development, maybe too big, pretty controversial. We'll see where it goes. Right now, it's going through the environmental assessment, and that will take a couple of years. We probably won't see this back until late 23, maybe early 24. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Next slide. Let's go to Coronado. Let's go to the areas that we're really interested in what's going on here. One of the first things that I was asked, by the way, before we even get to this, is I was asked to focus in on what we call our municipal services agreements. The Port of San Diego pays each member city for police, fire, lifeguard services that are on non-tax paying properties. So port properties, streets. And so one of the first things that I did in coming into this role is we secured a new 8-year agreement with a 12% increase over what we had before. It's $1.3 million a year. It'll have openers from time to time. As prices go up, we'll be able to negotiate those in. That's important, folks. It's important because otherwise the city, it would have to come out of our coffers at the city. And so if we're doing this for people coming in to visit the port facilities, say Tidelands Park, say the ferry landing, then the port pays for that. And I feel real comfortable that we've negotiated a very good agreement for the city of Coronado that's going to last for 8 years going forward. Let me move from that and talk about this. One of the first things I was also asked to do was to focus in on the ferry landing retail development. Let's be frank with each other. It's looking tired. It's a neat project. I'm old enough to remember when it was built, but it needs some love. The developer had at one time come in and proposed a hotel. That didn't go well. And then he finally realized, okay, I'm going to have to come in and do something that works for the city. And so he made a proposal for a redevelopment of this retail center, and it didn't go well. It had a lot of different architectural, modern design with glass, and our colleagues, all our friends, all our neighbors would come together and they'd say, no, we don't like it. And so I come in and I'm hearing from the developer, and he's telling me, look, Frank, it's, you know, we were trying to do this and the community doesn't like it. My response to him was, what does the community want? What do they want? Well, they want something more reflective of like the architecture of the Hotel del Coronado. Something that people think is more reflective of Coronado. I said, well, why don't you give them that? To me, it's a no-brainer. And I said, look, and if you want me to help you while I'm in this role, you need to go to work on it right away. And to his credit, he did that. He went back and engaged his architect, came out with a whole new development proposal, met with the community again, had a community meeting. People loved it. And so it's now in for processing at the Port of San Diego. We're going to see that ferry landing retail center redone. And that's something I think we're all going to benefit from having there. Now, right next to it, it's actually a separate lease, is a pad that was always contemplated. Al, you'll remember this. It was contemplated to be two restaurants. One's the El Fornillo, and there was going to be a second one there forever. By the way, this is another deja vu moment for me. This was existing when I was here 20 years ago. And obviously there's been a lot of interest on that vacant lot there, and what are we going to do with it? Are we going to develop it, or are we going to create a park, or what's going on? I was pretty proud of the mayor and council here when they voted in December of 21, and they said, no, we're not going to get involved with the business transaction between the port and its lessee. It's always contemplated to be another restaurant. And so that's what it's going to be. Now, they've engaged, the lessee had engaged a company they actually had a letter of interest to develop a high-end Mexican food restaurant there. That fell apart, but they've got a new restaurateur on board right now that they've negotiated with. We still have work to do, but I'm encouraged by it, and I'm hoping that we're able to put something together there that will benefit us all. So that's the ferry landing. Let's move on. Deja Vu Part 2. True story. Yacht Club. Now, for those of you, I know Mr. Sankey, you remember there. I remember this real well. I come back and they say, okay, we'd like to meet with you to talk about our proposal. And I said, why are you guys still talking about this? I don't understand this. Well, the proposal had been kind of stuck in the sand, if I can use that a little bit, that pun a little bit. There has been an issue with the Coastal Commission, where the Coastal Commission, very typical of what happens here in California, whereby they wanted to create access through that leasehold. Well, of course, if you're the Coronado Yacht Club, you understand, look, you don't want people just trucking through your leasehold. And so, I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to kind of just go through this real quick. I think we have found a solution based upon a previous approval that happened in Newport Beach. We're now engaging with the Coastal Commission, showing them what this contains, whereby we're able to provide access on both sides of the leasehold. And I'm hoping that that's going to be something we're going to allow this project to go on to the next phase on. So stay tuned for that, folks. Next one. Let's go to something that I know a lot of people are interested in, the Coronado Cays Resort. This is Deja Vu Part 3. It was around when I was here before. It was a project that was contemplated. There was a previous optionee that wanted to develop it, didn't happen, lost it. The new guy comes in, proposes a 114-room hotel, gets blown out of the water, a lot of opposition to it. Now comes back with a 41-unit modular homes, I'll call them, on site. Smart concept, but the fact is that he hasn't worked with the community. And what I've said to him, when he approached me and he said, Frank, I need your support on here, I said, you need to get the support from the community first. You need to engage the community and get them on board with you. He didn't do it, but what he did is he spent a lot of money with his PR consultants. And folks, we lost on a 4-3 vote. We lost not on the project approval, but on starting the environmental assessment for this project. It's just the beginning. If you read the paper, you read my quotes where I talk about this is just the beginning of it. We have a long road to hoe. What's going to happen with this thing is uncertain. My friend Ed Noonan said, Frank, what's going to happen with the project? I said, we don't know yet, but there's tall mountains for him to climb. Not only to get the environmental assessment done and approved, but also to get a land use change designation. That, folks, carries a 2/3 requirement of the board. So 5 of us have to vote to approve that land use change designation. At this point, he doesn't have those 5 votes. He knows it, so we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes from there. The other option would be to redevelop that as a park for all Californians to be able to use, and it's a top priority for me. We'll see where it goes from there. I'm running out of time. I could talk forever. Just a couple, let's move on real quickly. We have a couple, I talked about the municipal services agreement. Let's go from there. There's a couple projects, there's one in National City. If we could just go to the next one. The National City Balance Plan. The port has its hands in a lot of different things around for the 5 member cities. Pretty exciting stuff. A balance between parklands and industrial lands. The city has always wanted to have more access for its residents. That plan now is approved. It'll be an expansion of Pepper Park while still having all that commercial area, that's where the vehicles are at, folks, that I was talking about earlier today. Let's go on to the next one, and then Imperial Beach has some enhancements going on there at the pier. Obviously, the whole beachfront there has been redeveloped, and I think it's good for everybody. So I hope I gave you a little bit of an insight into what the port's about. If we have questions, I'm happy to take them.
So we have time for a couple questions for Frank.
Yes. Back in the back.
That was a fantastic update. Thank you so very much. I think everybody feels that way. I live in the Cays, and I'm a former president of the HOA down there. Also, I overlook South Grand Creek and Sheltering Wings, so I have a vested interest. One of the things that's happening down there, and I talked to Commissioner Benelli about it before, is that we have severe silting in of the area around the southern tip of Grand Caribe, such that there are buoys out so far that are sometimes not even lit, that we've just got a really serious problem. The problem is, if you dig down in the paperwork, the leaseholder is supposed to be responsible for the dredging, and can't the port help with this, because it's a boating safety issue? Thank you.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. I'm aware of that situation. When John, Councilmember Duncan, talks about the arguments that I made at the hearing about this project, one of the points I made about that was indicating that that tenant has not been a tenant in good standing. And what I meant by that is that I'm aware that there's been certain obligations that he has had to do that he hasn't done. And so those are issues that obviously we have to push for to get just simply from a safety standpoint, but also it's something that I'm holding in my pocket as a negotiating chip, depending upon how this thing goes with this project. There was one other question in the back.
Yeah, Frank, I have a quick question. I ride the ferry almost every day, or I used to. I thought the port built a perfectly good terminal on Broadway Pier. It doesn't appear to be used. You said that the cruise ships use the old terminal that's north of the Broadway Pier. What happened there?
Look, it was in that 20-year period where I was gone. Let me just say that. But let me say that is a beautiful building. It's inadequate for the cruise business. And so, yeah, it's the craziest thing in the world. And so it's not used for that. It's used for special events. Yeah. And that's just crazy. Yeah. It reminds me of when I came in 1992, and I started asking staff, I said, what's going on with this big refrigerated warehouse that we have here at 10th Avenue? We had built a brand new refrigerated warehouse and it was empty. The port had built it on the come and didn't have anybody there to occupy it. That was one of the reasons I became very active in South America, to bring cargoes into that refrigerated warehouse. But with that project there, you're exactly right, and that's really the reason for it. It's inadequate for the cruise business. Yeah.
Okay, so next week we're back at the Coronado Yacht Club. The speaker is Jim DiMatteo. He's talking on Top Gun and Maverick. So everyone go and have a great Rotary week.